trying to figure out who some of these callers are. So
this is Jeff Klein coming in. All right, this is Josh. We're on air now, and we want to identify the unknown callers. So people could be watching.
this is
Calling here. This is Josh. We're on air now, and we want to identify. Garrison is on. Any commissioners on yet?
Commissioner Klein. Commissioner Kiefer's on at this moment.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
As we start, I'll have I'm good to go.
Harry, I can hear you. Danielle, let me know when I can begin the meeting. It's 1 minute away.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff. All right, we are live and on air. You can start.
Yeah, I'm back on. I dropped my phone. Okay, Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff, it's Kurt. Yes?
Josh says we're live and on air, and we can go ahead and start. If you want to start with roll call, and maybe remind everybody to put their phone on mute except when they're talking, just to give us
Yes, indeed. I'll begin with that. Thank you, Kurt.
Josh says we're live and on air, and we can go ahead and start. If you want to start with roll
Okay.
call, and maybe remind everybody to put their phone on mute except when they're talking, just to give us
Okay.
Josh says we're live and on air, and we can go ahead and start.
I need everybody to put their phone on mute. All right, had a lot of interference there. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Could all the commissioners who are in attendance on the line please state your name, keep your phone on mute when not talking.
Terry Baker.
Thank you, Terry. Who else?
Wayne Kiefer.
Thank you, Wayne. Who else?
Court Minor Smith.
Thank you, Court. Randy, you there?
I'm here. Randy's here.
Hey, Kurt Downey, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning.
Okay. Anybody else I need to do roll call on? Is that sufficient? All right. Okay. Hey, Krista, you there for us?
I'm here.
Hey, thank you, Krista. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First of all, express our appreciation to all involved for arranging this meeting and to the commissioners. We are going through delicate, unique, different times, and I appreciate thank everyone for their efforts today to be participating. With that being said, I'd like to comment. Vice President Baker, would you be able to start with commissioner comments, sir?
Yeah.
Everybody else, keep your phone on mute when not speaking. Thank you, Terry.
Yep, you're welcome. Good morning to everyone. Just real quick, a special and unbelievable thank you to all levels of staff for doing a phenomenal job guiding our county. In particular, the ones that are out there on the front lines doing the work to make repairs and so forth. Just a super thank you. And also a special thank you to all of the county commissioners. From what I've observed, we've done an excellent job staying out of the way of staff, letting them do their job, and directing us and directing our county in a very positive fashion. So thank you to everybody, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. That's well received. Commissioner Kiefer, would you join in with Commissioner comments, please?
Okay, I'll keep mine short. I still hear a lot of background noise, but also just repeat what Commissioner Baker said. Thank you to our employees who are working through the coronavirus pandemic, those who are working in the field, and those that are working from home too. That presents some unique challenges. Just like to thank our elected peers at the Board of Ed. I've had several questions and concerns from parents and from Board of Education staff. The Board of Education members have always been receptive whenever I'm reaching out and very responsive in getting some information. Same with our delegation, some questions I've heard from state orders and state mandates. Our delegation is helping to clear up and clarify some of those comments from our constituents. Also, a shout out to our many nonprofits in the community. I'm not going to mention any because I'm going to overlook some, I'm sure, but all of our nonprofits in the community that are serving those in need in various capacities in so many ways. Just a special thanks to our nonprofits that are helping out in this time of need too. That's all I have.
Wayne, thank you. Very poignant remarks. They're well received as well. Commissioner Schmidt, will you go next?
I think in coordination with everybody else, I want to especially thank the nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals that are working unbelievable overtime, taking care of this and being out there, but also to thank the small businesses that are out there, especially the restaurants that are hurting and changing their business model to the best that they can to help sustain what they can. We need to make sure we take care of them. And I know I've said this a couple times, but in the time of need, when we always out for sports programs, nonprofits, asking businesses to donate, I think now it's a special time that we need to go to those small businesses and help them out. They've always been there to help us, and now we need to be there to help them.
Thank you, Cord. Commissioner Wagner?
Good morning. I want to echo what the commissioners have already said. It's always a little bit harder to go last, but I really want to thank all the EOC Emergency Operations Center for doing a fantastic job. They've been getting a lot of good kudos from the government of Annapolis for the things they are doing for our community. I want to thank also the dispatchers, 911, all the law enforcement, Meredith is involved, EMS, fire and leaders, all the leaders in the community. And our county employees, I want to thank them for keeping this all moving and being here in the building and off-site and working from home and doing such a good job. I guess last but not least, for sure, is let's not forget all the clerks, cashiers, truck drivers. I mean, we seem to overlook them. I go into a store and I'm thinking, golly, I'd hate to be behind that cash register or making the deliveries and going through the buildings where there's masses of people trying to get groceries and other items. I really want to thank those people for being there for us to keep the supplies moving in the community. In the 17 months I've been a county commissioner, this Board of Commissioners has come across a lot of issues. The budget shortfall from the very beginning, serious situation with our first responders, which we're continually addressing and implementing new programs to assist them. Now we have the pandemic, which threatens our community, and maybe facing another budget shortfall because of the pandemic. But I can assure everybody, and I think I speak for all of us, that we're all going to work together. We can't do it without you, and we're going to do the best we can to get this through with the least impact to our citizens as possible. So I do appreciate it to everybody. That's all I have, Jeff.
Thank you, Randy. Commissioners, once again, thank you for all joining in today. I appreciate your willingness to cooperate under these unique situations. It's a credit to all of us working for the citizens. Commissioners, there are a lot of different people, all different levels to thank, from all of our county employees to every single department, to our nonprofits. It's once again showing that Washington County is shining together as a group, pulling together with a myriad of different groups helping and providing services. So in order not to forget one, a huge thank you out to everyone, even the healthcare workers. So with that being said, I'd like to go to reports from county staff. Please put your phone on mute, and once you respond, please identify yourself to help Krista. So any reports from county staff, please begin.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Garrison Schlesinger, the Director of the Hagerstown Regional Airport. How are you?
Thank you, Garrison.
Good morning, Garrison.
Morning. So we received some good news earlier this week that we had a conference call with the Department of Transportation and the FAA regarding the CARE Act funding for the airport. If you weren't aware, the CARE Act included about $10 billion of airports that was dispersed through is being in the process of being dispersed through the FAA. Each airport received a predetermined amount based off of a formula that was developed by the FAA. The amount allocated to Hagerstown Regional Airport was $1,126,907. So we will be receiving that in terms of the CARE Act grant. The purpose of this grant was to relieve airports from their operational expenses due to lost revenue resulting from COVID-19. And I just wanted to let you know a couple of the grant highlights that were coming through. So this grant is 100% federally funded. That means there's no requirement for a local match, which is good news from our budgetary reasons as well. So the grant will come through as a lump sum. As I stated, that was predetermined by the FAA. They are planning to start dispersing funds by April 21st. So they'll start dispersing them then. While I feel like this should have technically might have been an agenda item, there wasn't adequate time to get on the agenda. The DOT is trying to push this out pretty quickly. So we ask for your flexibility as we're working through this, and things are changing daily, so we will keep you guys up to date. Some suggested operational expenses included items like payroll and utilities for utilization of this grant. Some of the conditions, the airport must retain 90% of the employees, which that's not a problem for us as well. We are, maintaining 100% staff here. Also, another good news that came through the CARE Act of 2020 ACIP projects that are now 100% federally funded. So this directly impacts our passenger boarding bridge project, which would save us probably about $60,000 in local funds, as well as the Runway 927 rehab, which would save us about around $340,000 in local savings. So you'll see that start to come through. I think like I said, the passenger boarding bridge and the 927 are on the agenda today. So those are some local adjustments that came back from the CARE Act that we're happy to hear. I've been in communication with management, budget, and finance, our administrator's office, with the recent news, and I'm working in conjunction with the departments downtown as well as my airport staff and our engineering consultants to come up with the current basic needs of the airport to ensure that the usage of these funds meet the requirements of the CARE Act. I wanted to keep you aware as there will be, budget adjustments coming forward resulting from this grant that's coming your way. And like I said, things are changing, daily. So as I get updates, I will keep you guys informed. Thank you.
Harrison, is there any action you want us to take on your behalf today before I allow commissioners start asking any questions? Is there anything you want to act on today?
I don't have any actions of the CARE Act grant as of now.
All right, thank you. Commissioner, any questions for? Go ahead.
There will be, we're still receiving guidance from the FAA how this application process is still going to be happening. So we will ask your flexibility as this comes down. We'll keep you guys informed on what they decide.
All right, thank you. Any commissioners have questions for Garrison? And if you're not speaking, make sure you have your phone on mute. Thank you, Garrison. Commissioners, any comments, questions for Garrison?
Good job.
All right, hearing none. Next for staff report. Who's next in line? Please identify yourself.
Good morning, commissioners.
Yeah, there's some interference in the background, so make sure if you're not speaking, you have your phone on mute. But go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Good, Scott. Thanks. Good morning, Commissioner. Scott House, Director of Engineering.
There's still a lot of background noise coming in on my phone. Make sure you got your phone on mute. Scott, please continue. provided the commissioners with a draft 2020 Maryland Department of Transportation priorities letter for your review, and I'm asking for consensus for the commissioners that I can send the letter to the Secretary of Transportation regarding our transportation priorities for 2020. The letter is similar to last year, with the widening of Interstate 81 as the top priority. Do you have any questions? Scott, commissioners, you're looking for consensus, right, Scott? So that's correct. If there's not any questions, would the commissioners identify themselves and agree to a consensus or questions? Thank you. Terry, would you want to begin?
Yes, I'm okay.
The next commissioner, whoever wants to chime in, Wayne?
This is Wayne. I'm okay.
Thank you, Wayne. Court? Randy, either one.
Randy, okay.
Court, are you still with us? Okay, I'm okay with it. Court, are you with it? Okay.
Court was the source of the static, so Danielle muted him.
Okay. Well, anyway, we have at least 4 for consensus to move forward. All the commissioners okay with that?
Sir, Randy.
Go ahead. Scott, you have your consensus of at least 4 for the letter. Thank you, Scott. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, next staff member. Please identify yourself. Any other staff members?
Yeah, it's Kurt.
Okay, Kurt can have Krista. Maybe Krista has some comments too. Go ahead, Kurt.
Thanks, Kirk County, County Attorney, Interim County Administrator. I just wanted to provide some thanks to the commissioners for their support and understanding and flexibility as we move through this public health crisis. Obviously, we are having to work in ways that are different from our normal routines, and your understanding and consideration is much appreciated. I want to thank our staff, who is also working in different ways as we move through this crisis. They have been very supportive, very flexible, and very understanding as we make decisions that we have not had to make before, and we certainly appreciate their dedication and commitment and understanding and flexibility. And I want to thank the citizens who, although our buildings are largely closed to citizen access by appointment only, for understanding the need to engage with government differently during this public health crisis as we try to mitigate the effects of this virus. As others have said, there's been a tremendous amount of commitment from those operating our Emergency Operations Center. I appreciate their dedication and commitment to getting us through this crisis. I want to thank the health officer and his staff for their dedication and tireless commitment, and also to the state's leadership, including the governor's staff, and our local delegation, who have been providing a lot of resources and a lot of information to local government and the constituents here as we move through these dangerous and difficult times. I also want to point out that while we are in this unusual situation, some things of normal life continues, and one of those things, since it is a decennial year, is that the census is ongoing. Many individuals should have gotten postcards or notifications from the government to complete the census. They can do that online. I just want to remind we need to complete the census so our federal government has accurate information about our community, and it is in our self-interest to do this because a lot of the funding and resources that are provided from the federal and state government depends on an accurate count of our population here in Washington County. So for all of our citizens, again, please remember that the census is ongoing. It continues to be ongoing even though we have this virus. And please log on and complete your census.
finally, I just want to note for the commissioners that a motion to dismiss was filed yesterday in the Greg Marley lawsuit regarding Fort Ritchie by the county. That's all. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Downey from the commissioners or anything? Hearing none, Krista? Anything from Krista to report?
No, Jeff, I'm sorry. I have nothing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Krista. Good to hear from you today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Completing reports from county staff, I want to move on to bid award for the runway. That would be Rick Curry and Garrison. Please identify yourself and make sure everybody else have your phone on mute. Rick, Garrison.
Rick Curry, Purchasing Director.
Garrison Foster, Director of the Hagerstown Regional Airport.
Okay, go ahead and begin with your presentation for the bid award for runway 9-27 project.
Subject matter is bid award PUR 1409, runway 9-27 rehabilitation project at Hagerstown Regional Airport. Recommended motion, move to award the bid to responsive bidder, C. Wim Hetzer Incorporated of Hagerstown, Maryland, with the lowest amount of base sum bid of $3,602,425, and also number one for taxiways B and D relocation, an amount of $2,172,805 for a total sum of $5,775,230, and be contingent on the approval of the final contract by the county attorney's office. The bid was advertised in local newspaper on the various websites as we normally do. There were 2 bids received, and there were 90 individual companies that downloaded the bid documents. The bid work is to be completed within 75 consecutive calendar days from notice to proceed. Additional 85 consecutive calendar days provided for alternate number 1. If the work is not completed within the time specified, the contractor will be liable for liquidated damages of $2,500 per consecutive calendar days for exceeding the contract duration, and $2,500 per 15 minutes or part thereof for delay in runway opening. On the fiscal impact, this project is part of the airport's CIP budget program at a cost of approximately $6,304,480. Runway 927 rehabilitation project is currently budget and department's budget at $6,307,040. Also, there's a breakdown that shows the contribution costs based on local and federal funding, which will not play in this because of the CARE Act grant. And also there is a scope of work that was provided for the commissioners to review. And also there's a bid tab that shows the bidders who submitted the pricing for the project. That concludes what I have to offer for recommendation of awarding C. Wim Hetzer for runway project 9-27. Garrison, do you have anything you want to add?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
This is Sarah Grace. I would just like to chime in real quick and ask the commissioners also to the accompanying budget adjustment that goes with this request.
Commissioners, any questions for Rick or Garrison or Sarah?
Jeff, I have just one quick question. It's Randy Wagner.
Okay.
Garrison, it says taxiways Bravo and Delta relocation. What relocation? Can you explain that?
Yeah, we had to adjust taxiway Alpha and Delta there due to some change in the FAA guidelines on direct access to the runway. So we will be shifting those taxiways over a little bit to adhere to that.
Thank you, sir.
Sarah, would you repeat your suggestion?
Yes, no problem. There is an accompanying budget adjustment with this ARF. It came in late. That may be why it's not listed on the ARF as an attachment. It's for the runway 927 rehab project, and all it does is transfer funding that was originally thought to be funded by local and state sources to the federal source because of what Mr. Plessinger said earlier related to additional grant funding being secured.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions from anyone? If not, I would like to have a motion and a second. Please state your name with the motion and the second, and then your name when you vote. Is there a motion? The first is
For Miles Schmidt, I move to award the bid to a C. William Petzer.
okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Jeff Randy.
Okay. Commissioners, I have a first and a second by name vote. Would all approve? Terry, would you like to go first?
Terry Baker, approved, yes.
Thank you, Terry.
It's Kirk. Would that motion also include the budget adjustment that Sarah requested?
Yes, that's why I asked her to repeat that. Is that okay, everybody?
Yes. For Miles Schmidt, yes.
All right, Wayne, do you have go ahead, Wayne?
Wayne, yes.
Thank you, Wayne. Court, you've already, okay, that's the first, second, I agree. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 5-0. First and second is done. Next, passenger boarding bridge change order. Garrison?
Thank you, Commissioners, for the runway there. And Sarah, also thank you for mentioning that budget adjustment. So what I have here is a change order that we have for the passenger boarding bridge. The change order is required to adjust the Callis contract to include the passenger boarding bridge under the terminal project that is currently going on. The passenger boarding bridge project was approved for application and acceptance for use of the entitlement grant for the Hagerstown Regional Airport on March 3rd of this year. This change order allows the airport to utilize the current contract for Callis contractors who were awarded the terminal project. The passenger boarding bridge was an ad alternate of the terminal project, but now that funding is available and approved and secured, we would like to adjust their contract accordingly. The project entails the following: installation of the passenger boarding bridge for Gate 1, including ramp side stairway area, PT air for the passenger boarding bridge, as well as all associated structural, architectural, electrical, and fire protection work associated with the boarding bridge installation. The original contract sum for Callis was $6,391,000. We're asking to change the change order to include the boarding bridge, which was in the sum of $1,042,000, bringing the new contract sum to $7,433,333. So we are asking your approval to submit this change order.
Thank you, Garrison. Commissioners, comments, questions for Garrison? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the change order as presented.
No, this is Terry. Motion to approve is presented.
For Miles Schmidt, second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all the commissioners say aye with their name.
Aye, Randy.
Klein, aye. Yes.
Wayne, aye. For Miles Schmidt, aye.
Thank you.
Terry, aye.
Thank you, Terry. That's a 5-0. Thank you, Garrison.
Thank you.
Next, rejection of bid PUR 1457, Brandy and Garrison.
Morning.
Back again.
Morning,
Good morning.
It's Randy.
Introduce yourself.
Byron.
Thank you, Randy. Continue.
Brandy Novel, buyer in the purchasing office.
All righty.
Up here. The recommendation before you this morning is for the rejection of bid PUR 1457 for one newer used 2020 latest production model belt loader for the Hagerstown Regional Airport. We move to take action in the best interest of the county and to request that the bid for one belt loader for the Hagerstown Regional Airport be rejected due to the bid coming in exceeding the estimated budget. This notice invitation of bid was published in the local newspaper, on the state of Maryland's eMaryland Marketplace Advantage website and the county's website. One company downloaded the document and one bid was received, which exceeded the budget. So I look for approval on rejecting this bid today.
How much did they exceed the budget by?
The budget was 30,000, and I believe they had 69, so it was right around 50,000.
I move to reject the bid. Core Minor Schmidt.
Okay, thank you, Court. Is there a second for that?
This is Wayne.
Ray Baker, second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners? If not, all in favor say aye. Yes to reject. All in favor by name?
Wayne, aye.
Randy.
Core Minor Schmidt, aye.
Yeah, Jeff, yes to reject. Thank you very much. Motion to approve to reject. Next up, intergovernmental cooperative purchasing, uniform rental service. Randy, you're back again. Please identify yourself and the matter. Thank you.
Randy Noggle, buyer in the purchasing department. The next recommendation I have for you. The next recommendation I have for you this morning is for the intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 20-0030 for uniform rental services for various county departments. We move to authorize by resolution the utilization of this Omni U.S. Communities contract for uniform rental services for Washington County. This was awarded to Cintas out of Cincinnati, Ohio. The Code of Public Law of Washington County, Maryland provides that the Board of County Commissioners may procure goods and services through another jurisdiction's contract. The county will benefit with a direct cost savings by using this contract due to the large buying group, the economies of scale that they have leveraged. So I look for, each county department has funding available in various accounts to account for these services. And that's my conclusion, and I look for approval to utilize this cooperative contract.
Commissioners, any comments, questions, or a motion?
This is Wayne. I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Cintas.
Thank you, Wayne. Is there a second for the motion?
Core Minor Schmidt, I'll second.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Is there any other discussion to approve? If not, please vote by saying your name and your yay or nay.
Terry, yes.
Thank you, Terry.
Wayne, yes.
Thank you, Lee.
Core Minor Schmidt, yes.
Randy?
Randy, yes. Randy, yes.
Yes. Jeff, yes. Thank you very much. Motion approved. Thank you, Brandy. Next up, intergovernmental cooperative purchase. That will be Brandy again. Thank you, Brandy.
Once again, Brandy Noggle in the purchasing department. The last recommendation I have for you this morning is for an intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 20-0031. It's for one new 2020 Ford Super Duty Super Cab truck for the Department of Water Quality. Move to authorize by resolution for the Washington County Department of Water Quality to purchase one new unused 2020 Ford Super Duty Super Cab truck from 72 Hour LLC, doing business as National Auto Fleet Group out of Watsonville, California, at the cost of $69,178, and to utilize another jurisdiction's contract. Again, the Code of Public Law of Washington County provides that the Board of County Commissioners may procure goods and services through the contract entered into by another government entity. And the county will benefit by direct cost savings by purchasing this vehicle through this contract because of the economies of scale set forth by this group. Funds are budgeted in the Department of Water Quality's capital improvement plan, and that concludes, and I look for approval to purchase this vehicle based on the cooperative purchasing contract.
Thank you, Brandy. Commissioners, any comments?
Yeah, this is Core Minor Schmidt. Can you explain what this first, what this truck is going to be used for, and second, if we have any other vehicles in our fleet that are being underutilized that could be moved to this?
Hello, Court. It's Mark Bradshaw, Deputy Director for Water Quality. The truck's going to be used by our maintenance department. We currently have 2 trucks, and both of them have surpassed the vehicle policy requirement for replacement. And so we're going going to go ahead and replace the one vehicle at this time. It's our truck that we used to take out on breaks. It has all our tools on it. Also, we carry pipe, and we'll have a tow package so we can pull a trailer and put pipe and other materials on a trailer right to a job site to make repairs on our pipe for the truck.
Are we selling that existing truck?
It will be sold on Gov Deals. Once we get the new truck in, we will list it and sell it on Gov Deals, yes.
Okay, and the other question is, do we know of any other vehicles that we have in our current fleet that could be utilized?
The only other trucks I know similar to this are some of the ones that Highway currently have. But I don't know of any other ones, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of this, and once it is purchased, then to put the other vehicle up for sale. For Miles Schmidt.
Thank you, Court.
There's Wayne, I second that motion.
Thank you, Wayne. Any further discussion? If not, motion to approve, commissioners?
Gary Baker, aye.
Wayne, aye.
Aye.
Miles Schmidt, aye.
Yeah, motion approved. Thank you, 5-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Northern Pump Station. Mark Bradshaw, welcome back.
Again, this is Mark Bradshaw, Deputy Director of Engineering Services. Back in November, I brought a change order before you to relocate the Northern Pump Station because one of the property owners had previously agreed to sell us the land for the station, but when we got into negotiations, they decided not to sell the property, so therefore we had to do a lot of redesign and relocate the pump station. And at that time, you were not comfortable approving the change order because of all the easements that were going to be required hadn't been secured yet. We do now have all the option agreements for all the necessary easements that will be required for this project. So I'm now bringing the change order back before you to redesign the station, and change orders in the amount of $158,979.80. And if you look at the actual change order form, the completion date will have to be adjusted based upon the date of the approval here today if it goes through, because that was based on the November date that was tabled on.
Mark, this is Randy Wagner. I have a so basically, you're saying we couldn't, because of we sort of put it on hold. You got your ducks and orders with easements, but now we have all those easements. This pump station is going to be 2,000 feet from the original spot. Is it correct that it's from the original price to now it's 158,000 more? Correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's because the redesign, basically. Most of
we had to redesign we had to design an additional couple thousand feet of gravity, redo the force main. The pump station was already at 90% design where it was. So now we got to pick it up. We can salvage some of the design, but you basically have to almost start from scratch. But we will keep a lot of the previous design, but yes.
And Mr. Huffman's still selling us the ground, right?
Yes,
Mr. Huffman's still selling us the ground.
Agenda item with Todd is the.
I gotcha. Okay.
An acquisition is next with Todd.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Sarah Greaves. Mark, I just wanted to clarify that related to the redesign, it's not just the $158,000 alone, right? Because if I remember correctly, I think the budget did substantially increase because of the redesign.
The budget was increased slightly due to the design, but we increased the budget based on the 90% drawings, what we anticipated it cost. Once we got the design closer to being completion, we updated the cost estimates accordingly. So yes, the CIP was increased based on what we amendments and stuff, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any other comments for anyone? If not, is there a motion to approve the change order?
This is Randy. I motion to approve the change order.
Terry, second it. Terry, second.
Okay, any further discussion? All commissioners in favor, say your name and say yes, no, or aye.
Wayne, yes.
Terry, aye.
Romano Schmidt, aye.
Randy, aye.
Yeah, Jeff Klein, yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up is the property acquisition for capacity management project. Todd Moser.
Good morning, Todd Moser, Real Property Administrator. So this is property acquisition for the project that Mark just discussed. The motion moved to approve the option agreements for partial property acquisitions, including fee simple and/or easements for the properties listed below, and to approve ordinances approving said purchases, and to authorize the execution of the necessary documentation to finalize the acquisitions. Option agreements had been executed for 11 properties listed below, both for fee simple and easement acquisitions. If you look at this table here, one thing I want to point out, the easements are estimated and the cost is estimated. However, we're very close. I mean, talking within a couple $100 combined for all 11 properties that we would be off. The reason that it is estimated is because we were given direction to have all the option agreements signed prior to the change order being approved. What is not estimated is the price per square foot. That will stay the same. That's what was negotiated on the option agreements. So I can run through these properties if you would like. 13317 Sear Falls Pike, 83,293 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 9 cents per square foot. 17514 West Washington Street, 52,272 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 38 cents per square foot. Next is tax map 24, parcel 533, 9,236 square feet. Again, perpetual utility easements for 17 cents. Moving down to the fourth property, tax map 24. There's a correction for the record. This is tax map 37, parcel 102. This is 10,000 square feet fee. That's where the actual pump station will go. And then 61,524 square feet perpetual utility easement, 13,387 square feet perpetual access easement. The access easement was actually donated by Mr. Hoffman. 34 cents for the fee simple, 17 cents for the perpetual utility easement. Next, text map 24, parcel 1168, 27,029 perpetual utility easement. That's 17 cents per square foot. Barbara Hoffman, tax map 24, parcel 588, 1,145 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 52 cents per square foot. 17506 Broad Fording Road, 54,014 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 24 cents per square foot. 17316 Broad Fording Road, 31,798 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 24 cents. Tax map 24, parcel 110, 27, 2,086 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 81 square foot. 13817 Salem Church Road, 3,733 square feet perpetual utility easement. 57 cents a square feet. Tax map 37, parcel 777, 19,797 square feet perpetual utility easement. That's 52 cents per square feet. I won't go over the discussion there that I had written down. It's what Mark Bratchell had explained, unless you would like me to do that.
Okay, commissioners, questions, comments for Todd?
Randy would motion to approve the acquisitions of the properties.
For a second?
Romano Schmidt, second.
Commissioners have a first and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, have a first and a second. All commissioners in favor, say aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, Terry, aye.
Thank you,
Wayne
Terry.
Kiefer, aye.
Thank you.
Cor Schmidt, aye.
Randy, aye.
Randy and Jeff, aye too. Motion passes. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, budget adjustment, Scott Hobbs.
Yes, good morning, Scott Hobbs, Division of Engineering.
Good morning.
I recommend the board approve a budget adjustment for 4 capital improvement plan bridge projects, BRG 083, BRG 020, BRG 030, and BRG 072. These bridges are part of our federal aid bridge program, Pathway Boulevard Bridges, Roxbury Road Bridges, Crystal Fall Road Drive Bridge, and Keysville Road Bridges. What I'm bringing before you is a housekeeping matter with the Budget and Finance Office. Currently, our program is the state withholds 100% of the money for federal aid bridge projects, and then they bill us or invoice us the 20% value for inspection and design and material testing. So some of the projects are reflected in the CIP as such with the 20% value. It's an 80% federal share, 20% local share. So this again is a housekeeping matter that we want to adjust all the projects to be similar with 100% value shown with the 80% federal and 20% local. So with that, I'll let Sarah share any other information on this.
Thank you, Scott. I think that was a good summary. Basically, at the end of every year, we do account for any federal portion that was paid on our behalf in accordance with accounting standards. So if we do not adjust the budgets to reflect those amounts, then the projects go over budget in error, and they won't allow invoices to be paid without an override. So it is really a housekeeping matter. It is the proper way to account for these funds, and we would ask that you approve the adjustment as created. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, any more questions or entertain a motion to approve the budget adjustment for projects?
This is Wayne. I motion to approve the budget adjustments.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Cor Schmidt, second.
Lord, thank you. I have a first and a second. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say yes and include your name.
Wayne, yeah.
Baker, aye.
Cor Schmidt, aye.
Randy, aye.
And Jeff, aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Todd. Next up, Project Award Engineering Services, Scott Hobbs.
Yes, good morning again. Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering. I'm here to recommend the board award the minor bridge inspection project to the lowest responsible proposer, Brutus and Associates, in the amount of $104,217.50. Requests for proposals were provided from the list of consultants under the engineering services contract, PUR 1421. We received 5 proposals with Brutus and Associates with the low proposal. This is part of our minor bridge inspection program. Every 4 years, the county has consulting services go throughout the county, inspect 200 minor bridges. Minor bridges for us are spans from 6 foot to 20 feet. We keep those on inventory for use in the future on managing the maintenance, repair, and replacement needs for the county in regards to our infrastructure. So I'm here again, it's part of our CIP project, BRG 002, bridge inspection and inventory. I'm here to, again, recommend the board approve the award to Brutus and Associates. Any questions?
Commissioners, questions, comments, motion to approve?
This is Cor Schmidt. Quick question. Is this within the budget amount, the 104?
Yes, this is within the budget.
And Cor Schmidt, I recommend the motion to approve the minor bridge inspection project.
Great. I have a first. Is there a second?
This is Wayne Kiefer. I second.
Okay. First and a second. Any questions from anyone? Hearing none. All in favor, say your name and yes or no.
Jerry, aye.
Cor Schmidt, aye.
Wayne,
Thank
aye.
you. Yeah. Jeff Klein, yes. All right. Thank you much. Motion approved. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Next up, water and sewer bonds. I believe, Sarah, that's you. Please identify yourself in the matter.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Sarah Greaves, Chief Financial Officer, today to discuss the water and sewer bond term and to try to get a consensus from the commissioners to move forward with either a 20 or a 30-year term for the bond issue that we have upcoming in May. This is only related to water sewer projects. And the estimated amount of the bond issue right now is $5.7 million. That amount could be lowered if we are approved for MDE loans. We would do that over the bonds because of the interest rate. So it is subject to that. But in consultation with our financial advisor and considering the financial condition of the water and sewer funds, we would like the commissioners to consider issuing bonds over a 30-year period instead of a 20-year period. There is an attachment that shows the 20-year option versus the 30-year option, a budgetary difference, and a present value difference. The decision made today will not necessarily lower any proposed increases for water and sewer rates in the near term because such a deficit remains. However, it is expected to lower the debt service costs in the near term, which will affect the health of the fund in a positive manner. If you look at the two options, you can see there's a budgetary difference, a present value difference. The present value is essentially the current value of future money. So this is something to consider when we look at this analysis. Our financial advisor does await this decision to move forward with bond documents, and we hope to have a decision today. Whatever is decided will be incorporated into those documents. Several of our peers, in conversations with our financial advisor, they have noted that several of our peers are extending their debt for water sewer projects because the life of those assets are longer than other infrastructure projects that are on. Are there any questions?
Yes, this is Score Schmidt. I know because of the current environment, interest rates have dropped. Has this chart been updated since we were last seen this, since we last saw this, because the interest rates have lowered in the last couple of weeks because of the market conditions?
This chart has not been updated, Court, but I have discussed interest rates with our financial advisor since then. Apparently, they are seeing a very volatile market, and so they have even seen some of their clients move from a competitive sale to a negotiated sale. That was something that they actually discussed with me last week. So this would offer no guarantees as to the rate. Because the market is so volatile, I'm not even sure that these rates would apply. It's really just for a purpose of a picture of what it would look like and what could be the impact. But we're still discussing the the bond sale with them. And again, if we do a competitive sale like we have done in the past, and let's say rates come in higher, we do have the ability to reject those offers and basically rebid it.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I would like this grant. Oh, go ahead, Gordon. Never mind.
I just want to make a quick comment. We've seen a lot of, in the market, you've definitely seen a lot of for-profit companies going out and refinancing their debt. We've seen that locally with other nonprofits going out and refinancing their debt because interest rates are so low. I think this is a good idea. I will await Randy's comments before I make a motion.
Mine are just pretty simple, basic math in my book. I know that's what I was concentrating on is interest rates. I guess two explanations from you, Sarah. I guess, and this might come back to the interest rates. We spend $1 million more by going 30 years, and and the interest is higher on 30 years than 20. But our interest rates. So explain why we do that.
Well, we do that because we're borrowing over that longer term period. Now, the interest rate, you're probably looking at that budgetary difference of $920,000 there. So yes, that is true. On paper, that would be the budgetary difference. I think where there is value is looking at the present value difference column and understanding that, you know, even though we'd be expending those dollars in years 21 through 30 where we otherwise wouldn't have, there's value in doing that. And the initial budgetary difference and impact to our fund today would benefit. And so as long, basically, for the water and sewer funds and the rate model and how, you know, everything kind of works together and all of the estimates that go into the projections for the rates and everything, we're in the middle of the thicket right now. We're trying to get ourselves out of this deficit position. And so this is a tool that we could use to help us get there a little bit faster. $100,000, if that is actually the budgetary realization, is significant. And so that's not the only thing that's going to help us get out, but if we can combine all of our efforts to try to get out, the hope is that smaller rate increases in the future, but consistent, so annual but smaller, would help to provide a fund.
Someone else want to make a comment on that before I go?
This is Wayne. I just have a quick question here. You know, considering how our budget may be strained over the next few cycles with the current economy and the coronavirus pandemic, my only concern would be, I do like the saving additional monies up to $100,000 a year if that holds true. Are we sure these are projects that will last us 30 years? I'm just wondering, you know, water and sewer guidelines and restrictions, we're constantly updating our water and sewer facilities at exorbitant sums of money. Are we sure these are projects that will last 30 years, the life of that debt?
Thank you, Wayne, for your question. I am pretty confident. If Mark Bradshaw is still on the call, he can certainly chime in. I would say that these treatment plants, one is the Smithsburg wastewater treatment plant, and the other one is the capacity management project. Both very expensive projects. Both should have a 30 to 40 or 50-year life. So unless Mark would have anything else to say about that, generally treatment plants do have a longer life.
Okay.
All right. Hearing nothing from Mark Bradshaw, commissioners, any more comments? Or I think we're looking for a consensus on this one.
This is Court Mino Smith. I look for, yes. You know, I have no problem moving forward. I would just like to make sure on the bottom of the chart it says 2.34 for the 30 year. I would like to move forward for the 30 year as long as it is below 2.5%.
I would concur with that. This is Randy. I would concur with that.
Okay, we need a consensus. Other commissioners, you okay?
This is Wayne. I'm fine.
Thank you. Terry?
Terry's okay. Terry Baker,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay with me for consensus to move forward. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Next item, fiscal year 21 general fund budget by Sarah. Welcome back.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me. Sarah Greaves, Chief Financial Officer. I am going to talk about the 21 general fund budget. First, I'd like to make a comment or a few comments on where we stand for fiscal year 20. You know, we've been through a lot these last few weeks. The state of Maryland took several swift actions in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in a progressive nature, from social distancing to the shutdown of all non-essential businesses. The impact of these measures will be substantial, and unfortunately, the duration is currently unknown. The most heavily impacted revenue source that we have is expected to be income tax. We do anticipate that many of our citizens will continue to file for unemployment. Local businesses may lay people off or cut jobs so that they can afford to make payments for other fixed costs. We expect this may continue and even increase in the near term. Extraordinary stock market volatility, the state-mandated closures, pandemic fear will also impact both individual and business income and decision-making. We expect to see capital gains materially weaken. The wage component of our income tax is approximately 87%. So in order to estimate the impact, the county has taken into consideration the employment makeup of the county, including the largest employers that we have and employment by industry. So when we think about some of our largest employers, you're probably familiar. We can note Washington County Public Schools, Meritus Health, Citicorp, First Data, State of Maryland, obviously Washington County Government, the Volvo Group, Hagerstown Community College. I just put some examples out there, for your awareness. Based on what we've seen within the industry of employment with Washington County, we are estimating that about 20% of our county employment will be more likely directly impacted. This would include industries in professional and business sector, leisure and hospitality, and other services. Other industries will be impacted as well. Don't think that they won't, but they should continue some level of work and compensation to employees. So there are many assumptions that are needing to be made in regards to a response for COVID-19. As an example of some of these industries, government, education, and healthcare make up 30% of our county's employment. Another 40% is made up with trade, transportation, utilities, construction, and manufacturing. So while we do expect a slow in some of that productivity, we do also hope and anticipate some retainage of those employees. So for fiscal year 2020, we are anticipating a 20% reduction in withholdings, which equals about $3.9 million for the months April, May, and June. We're also anticipating estimated payments be reduced by 50%, or approximately $1 million for the same period. So that's approximately a $5 million revenue projection change from what we had pre-COVID. We also have other revenue accounts that we anticipate to be affected. Some of those accounts include, property transfer related accounts, which is mainly recordation and transfer tax. We expect about a $500,000 hit to those accounts. And basically, mainly because of certain business decisions we expect to be delayed or canceled due to uncertainty in the economy. These are difficult to predict, but I feel they're reasonable. We expect that. Go ahead. I thought somebody said something. I'll keep going. And I will leave a...
I could ask you a question, Sarah. I do have...
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. In your explanations are very detailed. Thank you for that. When you say a $5 million projections change, you mean a $5 million reduction in revenue coming in. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. That is correct. So we took the projections prior to the pandemic that we had, and then once we factored in the pandemic, and the differential there is the $5 million.
All right. Thank you. Please continue.
Okay. In addition to the $500,000 discussed for recordation and transfer tax, we also anticipate a reduction in permit revenue. That's a little bit less of a concern, but nonetheless, we wanted you to know we've been looking at that, about $100,000 attributed to that. We did look at excise tax as well, but excise tax fluctuates greatly from year to year. We don't expect a serious loss in excise tax. Hotel rental funds, though, we all are aware those will be heavily impacted with the social distancing stay-at-home order. We expect about a $525,000 hit for hotel rental funds, and this is just for this current year ending June 30.
Sarah, this is Wayne. Can I ask you a question about the hotel rental tax?
Yes.
I'm wondering, I've cautioned from time to time, we have some forward funding or promises made in future allotments of hotel rental tax. Is there any danger in us not being able to meet those past commitments that we've made out of hotel rental tax?
Currently, we do not expect there to be a danger in meeting those commitments. We do have a healthy balance in that account right now. I think that is something very worthwhile mentioning and something that should be considered as we get additional requests. Currently, I don't feel concerned that we won't be able to meet those obligations.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. We were projecting for hotel rental for the year prior to the COVID pandemic about $2.3 million in revenue. Since that pandemic, it's been reduced $525,000, and we do expect about $1.7 million. I did talk about those estimates with the president of the Convention Visitors Bureau, and he is keeping me very informed about what they're seeing. So we are discussing that on a more regular basis. We also will see a hit to our gaming revenues. These will be heavily impacted. Many of our venues offering tip jars and other gaming operations have been closed down since mid-March, so we expect little gaming revenue through the rest of the year. So that's probably about a $450,000 hit for gaming revenue. And then the last one I'm going to talk about today is the admission, for FY20, is the admission and amusement tax. We do expect about a $100,000 hit for that due to it being heavily impacted because of the closing of operations. Revenues were trending high compared to budget, but we do expect, obviously, that revenue is going to be greatly reduced. So all in all, I've provided to you write-downs or losses of about $7 million here. If you add up all of those numbers between income tax, recreation tax, hotel, motel, everything that I mentioned, about $7 million. Keep in mind that that figure is from our projection pre-COVID to our projection during this COVID pandemic now. So it's not necessarily a budgetary difference. That's important to remember because some of our revenues were trending over budget. Okay, so that is being taken into account here. So when we break it down a little bit further, think about that budgetary impact and what that really means for the county. Instead of it being a $7 million impact budgetarily, we're thinking budget to actual would be around $3 million for the general fund and closer to $1 million for the other funds, which those other funds would be hotel, motel, gaming, and golf. I didn't mention golf specifically, but of course they are being impacted, and we expect a $175,000 reduction for golf revenue. I'm sorry I missed that one. I see that now. So then the question becomes, well, how is the county going to address that unanticipated revenue loss? What are we going to do? What do we have in the works that we can pull from? We do know that the interest on investments has been high for the year. So we expect, even at the end of the year, that we would be over budget by about $1 million for our investment interest because of how well we have performed, prior to March. So that's good news. That'll help buffer some of that deficit. Additionally, we do expect that real estate tax revenue will come in over budget, approximately $500,000. That could vary based on credits that come through, but that's our estimate. Expenditures are currently on target, but we've looked at a couple line items where, we feel more secure that we'll have some savings. If the commissioners remember, we had $1 million budgeted for EMS for a variety of potential items that we have been working through over the last couple months and will continue to work on throughout the next year or two. We had that in our 5-year plan to build up funds for some type of contribution to our EMS providers. So we do have that $1 million. We also anticipate having some turnover savings. Sometimes when we have positions that are vacant, the costs related to those positions are absorbed through overtime and other maybe part-time wages, but we do still anticipate that we would have some savings from vacancies. So on a high level, when we look at a $3 million impact to general fund and how we're going to make that up, we're hoping and expecting a realization of, $1.5 million in expenditure savings, and that comes from that EMS line item and the wage turnover savings that we're hoping for, and then we combine that with the $1 million over in investments and hopefully a $500,000 over in real estate. Now, certainly none of these estimates are certain. Something could happen where maybe we don't realize additional real estate revenue for some reason, or maybe we don't have vacancy savings of $500,000. I think the county is in a good position to weather a situation like that. Not only do we have ample cash reserves, which we can attribute to our predecessors and our current policies that we have in place now, and what we do with the excess annually, which has been to take any savings or annual excess we don't need for our 17% general fund reserve, and we move that to capital. So we do have some options as far as reserves. We also have options related to capital projects. So we have many capital projects that we have general fund dollars associated with. Maybe some of those projects have been delayed a year or two for reasons unknown to me right now, but I'm sure if I talk to project managers, and honestly, I have. So I do know of some projects, we could potentially delay. So I don't want to cause too much concern. This is very concerning, but I think that the county is in a position to try to weather these unanticipated revenue losses. Now, along with that, the assumptions of these reductions, they could be off. Income tax is highly volatile, and we get income tax as a percent from the state. So that's important to remember. It does not come directly to the county from the taxpayers, goes to the state. The state distributes it based on a formula. So depending on what the state gets could impact the county. So that is something to consider as well.
Sarah, this is Court Minor-Schmidt. Quick question on the income tax. Since the tax deadline has been extended, has the state given any guidance on how that's going to affect our payments?
Yes, I actually asked that question yesterday specifically because since the deadline is now July 15th, how will that impact the distribution that we receive in June and then a subsequent distribution that we get in July and August? And what was stated is that the state is going to do their best to try to factor in that some payments will be coming in late. So when they give us our June distribution, they're going to try to factor in that, there are probably payments that haven't been made yet. We're going to go ahead and distribute some to the county. So the county may not need to expect a serious decline over and above what we have already expected. We do expect a decline for sure because of the unemployment, but not related necessarily to the delay in payments. The state, however, has voiced that they'll do their best. It is kind of subjective.
Thank you.
Sarah, I have a question. This is Randy. I'm gonna, I keep it pretty basic. I guess the first question would be, wading through all that, your worst case scenario on shortfall that we would have to make up. It's a guess on your part a little bit, but it shouldn't be that much of a guess. What do you think? What do you think the worst case scenario we're going to have to make up would be?
And you're talking about current budget, not next year's budget, or the 2020
Yeah, current budget. Yeah.
I would say the most volatile revenue that we would have to contend with would be the income tax. So what we've talked about so far is that $5 million.
You got $5 million dollars and cents. Would you say, okay, we're gonna have to pull from somewhere? We're shortfall on $4 million. Would that be a fair statement? $5 million, $3 million. In the newspaper, you said $2.9 million. Is that I'm looking for worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, I think you can add another $2 million to that $2.9 million. So worst case scenario, we'll say $5 million.
With that being said, you mentioned maybe these items. You just mentioned things like delayed or et cetera, et cetera. I think I would look to you, if you've already looked into it, to give us a list of your ideas where that 3 to 5 million could be made up. I would want to see, okay, here's a project. I don't know where these projects are in theirs, but I would need to see a list of projects, keep it simple, of what possibly could be delayed and how much cost saving is for that. And then with that being said, I would want that plus, is there any chance the court just talked about the state and the revenues that are based, and you both did. Is there any other revenues that state hands to the county or sends to the county? I know Governor Hogan even talked about mandated spending could be cut. Is there anything you expect from the state that would be taking away or benefiting to us?
Right. I will say that they're trying to get some grants for counties so that certain revenue losses can be made up. There's nothing solid on that right now. That's something that I know Mako has been involved with and is working on. So there is that could happen. As far as the state goes, they provide our highway user revenue and they provide our disparity grant allocation. We have received some of those payments. They could potentially draw back those. I'm not sure if they will. I've heard them talk a lot about using rainy day funds. If revenues that we receive from the state are impacted, I would look more to those maybe being impacted for FY21, which we'll discuss as we move towards that conversation. But yes, I mean, that's something to consider. Could that happen? Anything's possible. I don't want to for the state, but what I've heard is that I think they're going to try to use their rainy day fund if they can. That's what it's there for. But, you know, and yes, to your point and your question on that additional $2 million, I have talked to certain directors. They are actually getting information to me. I expect to have that by early next week. Part of the reason I reached out to them is also in thinking about the 21 budget, because let's say we draw back on how much general fund dollars we're going to give to capital projects. One of the things I wanted to look at was, are there any projects we have right now that are not priority over something we have established for 21? Okay, and so I wanted to do that exercise anyway to see if there were funds available that I could draw back from now that maybe I could replace in years 2 and 3 in the capital plan later.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wayne and Terry, any other comments? I have one or two.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, thank you for yielding on that. Just in regards to the distribution of payments from the state to the county, there's going to be 20 plus other counties in Baltimore City wanting a large parcel or piece of that distribution, so I'm not sure what level that'll be funded out. And this may be something related to 2020 and 2021. Many years ago, under different administrations of both parties, highway user funds were rated, the project of the space money was rated, so we're going to look at maybe making up money in those categories for especially our highway use and things like that. One of the biggest things that are on my mind that affects 2020 and 2021, many of our volunteer companies are way behind in their fundraising. And there is going to be a consideration, along with the EMS assistance, how are we going to help them maintain their budget and their operating funds, because they're essential to our community. So there'll be an additional consideration of where we find funding to assist our volunteers. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Initially, I would say that we have a wide spectrum to consider when we look at our volunteer fire and rescue companies. Some companies are very solvent while others struggle. You know, this may be a case by case look at companies individually. The county is facing many unknowns, and so I understand that those companies are also going to be facing financial hardship. I think if there is a critical issue today, as they have done in the past, they may bring that to the commissioners for review. We may be able to offer them an interest-free loan or something like that, and maybe take that as a case by case. We could also, you know, wait and evaluate as we get further into fiscal year 21. Once we get our first distribution in November, and then when we get our second one in February from income tax, we could then take a step back and evaluate what the county's financial position is as compared to what we budgeted for to protect ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is Terry. I'd also like to comment on that. I appreciate Jeff bringing that to the front, our emergency services, because they have lost their ability to fundraise, and they are going to be needing help from the county. And I just want to thank Jeff for bringing that up. And I think it's important that only Mr. Griffith will be bringing hopefully some information back to us so that he can help give us some direction and some ideas. But I agree with Jeff wholeheartedly that we're going to have to do something for our companies out there, EMS companies, and as well as our fire companies. And I'm going to be supporting Jeff on that.
Yeah, Commissioner Baker, thank you for that. I know all the commissioners are in support of that. Yeah. I guess what we're trying to assure our volunteers is today that we haven't forgotten them, and we're going to do our best if you're listening. So thank you, Terry.
I agree. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anything else there? Continue.
Okay, so to just kind of wrap up fiscal year 20, again, with the fire and rescue discussion related to their ability to raise funding by doing their fundraising activities, they're also probably going to be impacted because of the gaming funds that aren't coming in. So we talked earlier about a deficit there of about $500,000. That's distributed 50% to fire and rescue and then 50% to nonprofits. So, our community will be certainly feeling the impact of these revenue hits on our county. Other than that, I will wrap up with the current fiscal year. I will get you, Commissioner Wagner, information related to potential capital projects that could be delayed or that we could reduce now and then put in the plan in a later date.
Thank you.
For fiscal year, you're welcome. For fiscal year 21, as we enter this discussion, we got to understand we have a lot of uncertainty. There's uncertainty in the county, in the state, in the country. We are planning, unless otherwise instructed, to try to take a very conservative approach to the budget. A very conservative approach is going to be a difficult budget. Preliminary revenue estimates have changed considerably. Prior to the COVID pandemic, total general fund revenue was around $252 million. The revenue outlook has changed dramatically. We have a lot of unknowns. That includes the duration of the pandemic, changes at the state level, which includes the comments by Commissioner Klein related to potential loss of highway user revenue. Will they change the disparity grant that the county is planning to receive? These are just questions we don't know. We don't have the answer to. The Board of Public Works, I think, is going to be making those decisions. And we'll have to wait on their expertise to understand how this will actually impact us from their losses that they are projecting. So that's something, we have a lot of unknowns. We also have unknowns about our own income tax, the overall loss of jobs, and relative businesses. So in addition to that, we've heard across the state and from rating agencies that there's an increase, that there's obviously risk we're going into a recession with significant increase in this infection and fear. We've seen evidence of this, market declines, shortage of goods due to supply chain disruptions, lower consumption and investments as consumer and business activities are going to be disrupted. So we face a high degree of uncertainty going into the budget. Income tax for 21 will be most heavily impacted. There are other revenue accounts that will be impacted as well. I'm not going to go through them line by line here today for you, but probably they make up $1.5 to $2 million in write-downs. But income tax makes up the largest write-down and is the largest unknown. So in conversation with that, while we anticipate that the percent of individuals affected by the shutdown we do anticipate that some will remain unemployed once the economy opens back up. We don't know when the economy will open back up. We do expect some of those individuals to receive unemployment income. Unemployment income is taxable. A question came up yesterday with Andy Schaffel about if people could take their unemployment income and not pay their income tax through it. He wasn't sure of an answer to that question, so I'm going to continue to look into that. Currently, what we know is that unemployment income is taxable. It has been extended unemployment through the end of the year, so, people may be on unemployment likely until the end of December. Some individuals who are currently unemployed may stay that way, while others may resume their positions. Some small businesses that were unable to weather the closure may go out of business, and certainly we have stock market volatility to contend with as well. One of the big questions here is, given these assumptions, given the uncertainty, how much risk is the Board of County Commissioners willing to take when it comes to the budget? Taking lower risk means a lower budget. It also means that in a year from now or 7 months from now, we may be in a position to fund things that maybe we didn't originally fund. So if we think about drawing back the budget and providing a very conservative budget, it's an option, it's lower risk, but we'd rather on the back end be in a position to fund something that we didn't rather than trying to figure out what we did fund that we have to pull back on. So a lower risk budget is not going to be a fun endeavor, but it will mean less funding for all programs and all needs, but it may be the approach that the county wants to take to safeguard, against over-promising or under-delivering.
This is core management. I agree with you. I think we need to look at what our revenue is and then go through line by line on our expenditures and see what we have to either fund what's requested, fund the minimum amount, or et cetera. But also, the last question I have is, when is the last possible date that we're required to pass a budget? And the reason why I ask this is the further we go in, the more information we will have potentially with our 2021 budget so that we can have a more accurate or better guess of what's going on.
Right, I understand that. By law, we have to establish a budget by July 1. However, our office needs more time to establish the budget in the system. So we need probably a couple weeks to get the budget that has been approved by the county commissioners into the system, tested, get any wage changes into the system and tested. And so there's
Sarah,
a
pardon the interruption, but don't we need to notify the municipalities ahead of time too, so they can also prepare their budgets, and there's a factor of consideration for them?
That is customary, yes, sir. We do that. We make sure that they're aware of any tax increases or rate increases that we have, yes.
Todd Hershey here chiming in.
Oh, hey, Todd, thank you.
Yes, Jeff. And also the homeowner's tax credit, the assessment office needs, tax rates to determine homeowner's tax credit calculations so that we can get them on the initial bill. So that late May date for establishing our tax rate is the latest it can be.
Okay, and we'd also have to take consideration if we went to a budget hearing and we decided to make changes, then there you go, another 2 weeks with marketing, advertising, publication of it. So I guess I'm not answering a full solution there, but there's some of the obstacles or challenges that we have to get a budget.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to find out. When is that last realistic date that we can do it so that we can have the best budget that we can with the most information? Not that I'm trying to delay it, but I want to make sure that we get to the municipalities and the taxes and all of that, but at the same point, get as much information we can, because this is probably going to be one of the most challenging budgets any commission in recent history has had because there's so many unknowns.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If I can make a suggestion, right now the commissioners have in their books the requested budgets from all of the departments. You know, we could provide the commissioners with a proposed budget to work off of for any additional cuts that they want to make. The reason I make that suggestion is because we've been through line by line to look for any excess. We've been able to say in certain circumstances, you know what, let's reduce this year, ask for it next year, or we have some recommendations already at hand. It may be easier and more efficient to work from a new proposed or draft 2 budget moving forward for any additional changes. I think on a high level, I can provide, you know, a very lean budget to the commissioners for consideration and then possibly receive feedback on what they would like to keep in the budget and what they would not.
I like that idea, Randy.
It may help streamline the process, and it may just create some efficiency, especially with all the challenges that we have with social distancing and doing all of this via phone or electronically, rather.
Sarah, the only thing I can say is we're in unique circumstances that we've never been in before. And as lean and trim as we can make our 2021 budget will bear fruit in the future, because I'd rather make an error on the side of being cautious and spending less than be here next year with a worse case scenario than we're facing today. So that's just some of my thoughts. I think you originally projected it was an estimated 7% increase in the one budget proposal. We need to be as close to last year's budget as possible, considering emergency things and items that can't be reduced. But that's my overall thought. We'd be as close to last year's budget or less.
Okay, would this be helpful? Would it be helpful for, I already have a lot of documentation prepared as far as potential reductions or changes to the budget. What I could do is present to the commissioners a draft 2 budget, or a proposed budget rather, that is as slim as I can make it, and then a list of reductions or changes, so that the commissioners will be very aware of those changes for transparency issues. And then if there is something that is not in the budget that I have not included, because basically all I will include will be items that are either mandated, contracted increases, items that operationally departments submit, and we could take that approach for our next conversation.
In that same chart, I guess, that you're going to put, can you put in there what the requested amount originally was? And if anybody has come in, outside agency, and said, hey, we understand what's going on, we've lowered our original request, you could do that so that we can see what the request is and what your second round of funding would be. Because I still would like to see what their initial request was.
Yes, and we have had several agencies do that, and we can definitely provide that to you. And we will actually, on those sheets, we'll have a requested, a proposed, and the change there for you, along with, all the actuals from the prior year.
Yeah, and if it's possible, what the original request was, and if they've come in and said, hey, I've lowered our request, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sarah, this is Wayne. This is Wayne. I have a question. Just kind of following what Commissioner Klein had said, I would tend to prefer a leaner, more conservative budget approach. And if we can make mid-year adjustments because things have turned around quicker than we anticipated or things are better than we anticipated, I'd rather be in that situation than have to cut further. I'm kind of
Wayne, that's a good suggestion. I forgot to say that. Thank you for bringing that to light. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think you alluded to it very nicely. My question would be one of our biggest ticketed items each budget year, because it's our largest expense, as it is for most employee expenses. I'm kind of wondering, what is your recommendation on pay increase, yes or no, this year? Any kind of a COLA? I know some employees have talked about that, and just I personally have my opinion, but I'm wondering, what do you anticipate putting in your revised budget proposal?
Thank you for that question. I did run a preliminary estimate for just the general fund alone on the proposed wage increase of 3.5%. It contributes to about $1.5 million in costs associated for the general fund. So that's the number. I also, one of the other things that's kind of ties into this, but I guess I don't want to divert. I would say that it would be my hope that we could keep it in. However, if you talk about a lean budget and cutbacks on everything, I'm not sure it's feasible. It may be something that has to be reevaluated. The difficulty, I agree with you on your suggestion to mid-year evaluate certain things that were not funded for potential funding, because I do think as we see revenues come in, we can make some of those decisions. The difficulty is that we get our first major income tax distribution in November. That's already 5 months into the year. That's only one distribution, and are we going to make decisions on that, or are we going to wait for February's income tax distribution to come in as well? And so that comes in the end of February. So by March, we have, half of our income tax distribution for our quarterly withholding. So I think that that's a great idea. I think that we should keep it on the table. As far as the wage increase, if the commissioners want a lean budget and nothing that is not essential, it may have to be reduced, or we may compromise for a mid-year, such as January 1. Is there any feedback that the commissioners can give to me as far as that wage increase goes? That's probably one of the most controversial items that we have to consider.
Terry Baker. You're going to be preparing the budget, and you're going to be presenting it to us. And everybody has contributed great ideas and thoughts. So once we get what you prepare and provide to us, then that's going to give, I think that'll put us in a better position to have some further discussion. But as of now, you're going to be putting everything together. An extremely lean budget, and at least for me, hopefully, and we'll be able to review it, and then we will be able to go through that and make additional comments and recommendations from there, correct?
Yeah, I'm in support of that suggestion by Terry and Wayne. Let's put all the options together and see where we are with all this, and then we can make that decision on the employee raises or any other extra compensation, and of course any of the other projects. Terry, thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, that sounds good. I will provide the commissioners.
Court, have any comments on that?
No, but I think that with the information and what all the requests are and where we're at, I think we can make an informed decision so that we can. And again, I would like to try to postpone this as long as we can, feasibly and realistically, so that we have the most information to make the best decision.
I appreciate all of your comments, commissioners. I do have, this pretty much is the conclusion of my update. You have given me the direction I need to move forward in a way to get you some documentation that you need to make decisions. I do have one more thing, if I could respectfully request a consensus on. It is related to the budget, but it's always a decision that has to be made ahead of budget time because of our policies and procedures in place here at the county, and it is related to healthcare costs for employees. I did send out an email last night with a previous ARF that was presented in February related to healthcare premium rates. We do expect a 5% increase. This increase is a shared cost between the employer and the employee. In addition to that, in the ARF, we show the allocation of costs related to employee and employer. It's a little bit different for the low option plan for medical and the high option plan for medical, but still, those are the only increases. No increases for dental, no increases for vision. And I would like to request the commissioners make a consensus to move forward with what was presented in the February ARF related to healthcare costs, because we need to give HR the information so that they can go ahead and stage the Oracle program to get our employees enrolled in healthcare. And they need to do that staging now, and it is effectively implemented. Well, it's implemented in July, but it's a employees have to get into the system in May to go ahead and make their selections. And so that's why I'm bringing this to you today. It was brought up yesterday that HR needed to work through this, and we needed a decision on that.
And commissioners, is there a consensus to move forward with Sarah's suggestion and recommendation?
Yeah, Randy, I'm good.
Anybody else? Jeff, I'm okay with moving forward. Anybody else?
I'm okay with moving forward. Still open for discussion and changes.
Terry Court?
Yeah, I agree with what Wayne said. I'm okay with moving forward as long as we can make changes and have further discussions.
Just to interject, gentlemen, this decision, we won't be able to make a change once this decision is made, because this will be the premium amount into the system for the employees, and to be able to make an adjustment at the last minute.
With that additional information, is still
I'm sorry, Terry here. There's a lot of background.
Yeah, people. All right, with that additional information from Sarah, is there a consensus?
I'm sorry, I can hear what Sarah said about not making changes.
Yeah, sure. I'll explain that again. So it's basically our HR department. They need to enter in all of the information relative to the healthcare costs into our financial system, Oracle. And then what happens is our employees, they go into a self-service model and they choose their election for their healthcare benefits. This process is always done in May. We have talked to our providers about extending, but apparently because of some of our documentation between us and them, we're unable to extend any costs that what we're doing right now. We're unable to extend, so we have to make a decision. We have to have it implemented July, and in order to implement it in July, we have to have employees make their selections in the month of May. And so with that, basically, we have very little flexibility to make a change once those rates are entered. And if Rachel Brown is on, I think she has an agenda item coming up, she may want to chime in on how this impacts her department. It is held in her department, so she would have more knowledge and expertise. But I will say, still with this request of this 5% increase and the allocation, our health care at the county remains a Cadillac plan. It is offered at a very reasonable cost to our employees, and I believe, if my memory serves me right, the employee portion is 8% for the low medical, which is a very rich plan, and 12.5% for the high medical. And so I think that even with this adjustment, we do offer our employees very good healthcare rates.
Okay, with that being said, is there still a consensus to move forward?
Jeff, this is Terry. I have a question for Sarah. So, Sarah, does this limit our ability to negotiate the cost to the employees by moving forward with this today?
Yes, it would limit your ability. You would basically be making that decision today that the 5% increase, we will have a cost increase for health insurance. And so today I'm asking that you make the decision to share that cost between the employer and the employee, which is a 5% increase, and then also choose to allocate those costs for the total premium based on the chart that was on that ARF. So yes, it will. I want to be very upfront about that.
Okay. I guess what I'm thinking is if we don't have the ability, or if we don't give our employees a pay increase, then they're going to be receiving a health care increase. They're not going to be receiving a pay raise. And I guess that sometimes we offset the health care cost with a percentage pay raise. So I guess that's what my thought is. Do we have to really decide this week, or can it wait a week? Or
is Rachel Brown on the line to comment on whether it has to be decided today, Rachel?
So this is Rachel Brown, HR Director. So our concern is that we have multiple steps that have to go in place in Oracle that we have to test and make sure work accurately before we can move forward with open enrollment. With the timing, I would be very concerned waiting an additional week to be able to make all of those things go into effect and for everything to run smoothly, especially since it's going to be more challenging for us to communicate with employees due to our current working situation. So I understand, Commissioner Baker, your concerns about us being set with a change. However, the recommendation that we made in February did look at our incurred expenses as well as our planned trends from our vendors as to what we could expect with medical expenses. And I do think it's a reasonable adjustment to be made. We could consider that with whatever discussions happen from a wage and salary perspective in the overall budget. So if the consensus is made to move forward, we can always remember that that's already been decided when we're talking about wages at a later time.
Yeah. And I agree with that, and that's a great point. So I'm ready to move forward to that.
Great. Anyone else consensus to move forward? I am.
I am too. This is Wayne.
Terry, yes.
Terry, yes.
Romano Schmidt, yes.
Randy?
Randy Wagner, yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sarah, is that all you have?
Yes, sir. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, request for cancellation of the tax sale. I think Todd Hershey in the audience, and Sarah, would you begin?
Yes, Commissioner Klein, thank you. You should have before you the agenda report form regarding the cancellation of the tax sale. Washington County has historically held the tax sale for the unpaid real estate property taxes on the first Tuesday in June. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many jurisdictions in the state have postponed or canceled their tax sale. I did a survey this morning where 13 jurisdictions have postponed or canceled as of today. The staff believes it may be appropriate for the Board of County Commissioners to consider options regarding our tentatively scheduled June 2 tax sale. We believe it's recent actions by the state and federal government giving extensions and taking initiatives. We also believe that consistent with the policy regarding our ability to assemble, that it may be difficult to execute the tax sale. Washington County has about $1.6 million in revenue outstanding from about 950 accounts that remain in arrears. So that's the revenue figure we're looking at. Some jurisdictions have postponed, others have postponed but not set a date. So we can, if necessary, we can postpone and not establish a date. we can continue on with the tax sale if that's your desire, or we could just reschedule the tax sale for next June, if that is your desire.
Hey, Todd, this is Randy Wagner. I got a quick question for you.
Yes.
Just hypothetically, we postponed this for, say, 3 months. Now, if the tax sale went on, the delinquent tax owner would take 6 months to redeem his property. Is that correct?
That is correct. After 4 months, after 4 months, if it goes to tax sale, after 4 months, these successful bidders, the people bidding on properties, can start charging attorney's fees. So really, after 4 months, it gets a little more technical for property owners.
So hypothetically, if we postponed it for 3 months, and they still haven't paid, then they'd go into a tax sale, and then they'd have 4 to 6 months to redeem it still. So they'd be actually getting about 9 more months. Is that correct?
That is correct. Interest will obviously, as you said, it continue to accrue. So yes.
Right. How many calls have you gotten? A lot?
Yes, probably 150. Yes.
Okay. That's all I got, Todd. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I have a few general questions, and I'm likely in support of this. You say we have around 950 accounts that are currently not paid that could potentially go up for the tax sale. How does that compare with recent years? Is that typical, or are we above average because of the coronavirus?
It's interesting. It's about the same as it is every year. Historically, these numbers come in exactly the same year after year.
We're about where we are. Okay. Last year.
Absolutely, yes.
Not be close. And how about the process for conducting the tax sale? Remind me, is that done online? Is that done in person? What's the feasibility of doing a tax sale if we are still, adhering to social distancing?
Good question. Historically, the tax sale has been you had to be present and you had to attend the tax sale in Washington County. So you're right, there are options to go online and have tax sales conducted that are consistent with their distancing requirements. My goal is to try to attract people that are local that will take an interest in these properties that may purchase the certificates, and 90% of them, 95% of them get redeemed. 5% of them actually go to foreclosure. But if we can improve 5% of the tax sale properties with a local owner that may care about these properties, that's why we've always had the tax sale where you had to attend in an effort to attract local people.
Right. I think for me that could very well be another reason that we could approve this extension. If we can't have our tax sale as we normally would because of social distancing, I don't think we want to go down another route at this time. So that would be my opinion. I support this.
Tax sale isn't until June, right?
That's correct. There's a 4-week advertising requirement that we have to begin the 1st of May. So that's why we waited as long as we did. Most of the other counties have already made their decision, but we tried to wait. We're hoping optimistically for improvement here, but we do have to start advertising on May 1 for 4 weeks, and the tax sale first is in June.
Right. Because the social distancing could be over and could not be over, so I agree. It could be a factor, maybe it's not a factor, but who knows? But anyway, that's all I have.
Could you speak about whether you had any concerns from any of the municipalities? Because effectively, the county's acting on behalf of the municipalities as well when it conducts a tax sale, correct?
That is true. And the only county that has contacted me was the city of Hagerstown. They seem to suggest that they wanted to continue with the tax sale. The code does allow municipalities to conduct their own tax sales if the county treasurer is not going to include them. So the municipalities do have the authority to conduct their own tax sale. So City of Hagerstown may very well want to go in that route if they're concerned. And I understand their concern. They They have large lien obligations. If you let taxes go another year into another cycle, these liens just get larger and larger, and then our ability to obtain a bid at tax sale becomes less and less. So I do understand what the city, why the city may want to pursue the tax sale, but they have an option. So there is that.
This is Court Miles. I want to point out something that this the cancellation of the tax sale, this is for taxes that were due basically a year ago. This is not taxes that are due coming this June. This is for taxes that were due in June of last year when the economy was booming. So this delay of tax has nothing to do with the COVID-19 or anything that's going on currently. Is that the correct statement?
That's a good point and absolutely correct. These bills became in arrears on October 1 of last year, of 2019, and the second installments were due on December 31 of 2019. So yes, these are obligations that have remained delinquent for some time. And I always point out that true hardship situations, those folks are eligible for the homeowners tax credit program. We grant about $1.6 million in homeowners tax credits to about 2,100 accounts in Washington County, and that's supplemented, by the way, through the county commissioner-approved senior tax credit. So, the ones that are experiencing hardship, they truly do have a program out there to protect them.
Yeah. For those reasons, I'm not in support of canceling the tax sale this year. If we need to delay it because of social distancing, I can understand that. But I am not in support for canceling this for an entire year. And the only way I would delay it is if there was, and what you put on the ARP is that there would continue to be an interest accruing. Now, the question on that is you had 1% per month. Is that 1%? Is that compounding? So if you had, make numbers easy, you had $100. Then next month, you gained $1, and then the month after that it was $1.10.
It compounds at simple interest.
Simple interest. Okay, thank you.
Terry Baker making. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I might go a delay of 90 days. That'd be I'll probably agree with Court on that. I definitely wouldn't cancel it. Maybe a delay because of just the regroup here when this hopefully this COVID-19 passes us. Anyway, that's what I have. Go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry.
Okay. My concern is for the people that have primary residence and if they're possibly having issues. So for me, I'm okay if we do a delay of the tax sale, say 90 days, then we still have the ability, if things don't move forward as we're all hopeful for, then we could always come back and do an extension of the delay. Is that correct, Todd?
Yes, you do not have to set a date at this time. You can just decide to postpone it, and we can discuss those options later. I would suggest if you want to postpone, honestly, given our collection cycles, I explained the 4-week advertising process, and July to September, we're moving a lot of revenue. And so if we advertise in October, perhaps the first Tuesday in November might work well in our cycle, but we're flexible. We can make anything work. But
okay. And then the other thing, on the owner-occupied properties, I'm certainly, and this is just me speaking, I'm not interested in them having any additional fees, or I'm also not interested in them accruing any more interest increases after what was the deadline, April 3rd or April 1st or March 31st, something like that. So we sent out a final tax notice. So since this pandemic has taken over everybody's life, I'm not interested on owner-occupied properties. I'm not interested in adding any more additional interest to their tax bill either. That's my position. But as far as the other properties that aren't owner-occupied, to me that's a different scenario.
And Commissioner Baker, we were geared up to apply additional fees in early April, and we withheld on that given the situation evolving as it was. So we withheld applying attorney's fees in early April. Although I would point out that those folks that did aggressively try to gather the funds together in March and in April to date, those folks did pay the interest. And so for folks that get additional time, those folks that did pay their taxes in April, they're probably struggling, but they did pay their taxes, where the others have chosen not to at this point. So I'm not sure it's a positive reinforcement.
Well, I agree, but at that point in time in March, people were putting their money together and paid their taxes. I don't think we felt the full impacts of COVID-19 at that point. I think now people are really struggling, and every penny that I can help them save, that's what I want to do. So again, this is only for owner-occupied tenants, and there may not be many of them. I don't know how many owner-occupied homes are in this position of where their properties could potentially go up the tax sale. Also, I think the governor isn't there. No one can be evicted for a certain period of time, and I can't remember how long it is before anybody can be evicted or has to be removed from their home anyhow. So again, my concern is for the owner-occupied properties. Everybody's going to be suffering hard times and difficult times, so I don't want to add to the people that are really, really struggling to have a home that they want to stay in. That's just my position.
This is Cormanos. My concern, again, is that these were properties that were late on their taxes a year ago. If we want to do that for people that are in a hardship because of the COVID, for the taxes that are due this year, I understand that, but these are taxes that were due last year when the economy was booming. And I'm sorry, I apologize, but I disagree with that. If you were...
Of course, there's many families out there that struggle all year long to put their tax money together, and they work hard. And these are families, in my opinion, that could probably, you're not talking a lot of money. So I'm interested in helping the owner-occupied families to try to, you're not decreasing their tax by very, very much. Maybe, I think it's 1% or less. So that's my position. So.
Yeah, and I understand that for the current taxes, that people would be affected because of the COVID-19. I disagree with last year's taxes.
I'm not sure. We may need legal interpretation. I'm not sure we can discriminate between owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied on the interest accruing, the rate of interest. We may have to look into that if that's the direction you want to go.
That's covered by state law, not county, right, Todd?
That's correct.
What do you need from us? Some type of direction? Because I support a 90-day delay. I just think of all the people who did struggle to pay their taxes over a year ago in the best of economy. I think we're discriminating against those who did live up to responsibility. But that's being said without empathy for those people, and I think a 90-day delay would help.
This is Wayne. I'm interested in a 90-day delay as well. And again, we can take an opportunity to look at this as we get closer to that timeline. If we need to extend another 90 days or extend a little further if the pandemic is still ongoing, I wouldn't want to do anything to remove people from their homes at this time. And we might not be able to, as our treasurer said, we may not be able to differentiate between owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied. But I do think this has caused issues for a lot of people, and I'd like to be as accommodating as possible. Yeah, I understand that these are taxes that were due last year before the coronavirus hit. But if we have around 950 on a regular reoccurring basis every year, these are probably people that, at least for the owner-occupied homes, which again we can't differentiate between, those are probably people that are struggling as is anyway. Sure, there could be some people in there that could afford to pay and choose not to for whatever reason. But I will 90-day delay now, and we can reevaluate it if need be.
Well said, Wayne. Commissioners, is there any support for that suggestion by Mr. Keith?
Yeah, I'll support it.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, I did lose y'all. I accidentally bumped my off button over my mute button. One's right on top of the other. Sorry.
Okay, but you did get to hear Wayne and his comments?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think the big thing, Terry, the big thing you may have missed is Todd doesn't think that we can differentiate between owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied taxpayers.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get into a debate on that. I'm just going to be satisfied with the 90 days
delay.
Yeah, and then we can, and if there's a family out there that wants to come forward and discuss their issues with us, they're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Other commissioners, comments?
I guess, is there a motion on the table? Because I'll support a 90-day for the purpose of social distancing on the tax sale.
Okay, Kirk Downey, we okay making this a motion? No consensus, just a motion okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Motion okay. Court, is that a motion to support the 90-day delay?
I'll make a motion to postpone the annual tax sale by 90 days because of social distancing and incorporate the obligation of 1% per month.
Okay,
I'd second
that?
I'd second it. Yeah, Randy seconds it.
All right, I have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say yes by name.
Wayne, yes.
Jeff, yes.
Court, yes.
Randy, yes.
Jerry, yes.
All right, thank you, everybody. A good discussion. Mr. Hershey, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Next up on our agenda is employee investment programs. Rachel Brown, you're on the line.
Good afternoon, Rachel Brown, Human Resources Director. And I'm requesting an official vote to dissolve the three existing employee investment programs and their accompanying policies and budgets beginning with fiscal year 2021. The existing programs are well intended but underutilized as the involved processes are cumbersome. Some of the procedures are also in conflict with existing business expense policies and procedures. I had already been reviewing these policies with Sarah Greaves, our Chief Financial Officer, and we were considering changes to the program, but in light of the need to review our budget expenses regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, it further supports our recommendation to dissolve these policies and budgets in their existing form. If approved, staff recommends that directors and department heads would budget through existing budget categories for items that they would normally try to request under these three categories. If our request is approved, we would ask that directors be provided with 1 week to send in revisions to their 2021 fiscal year to adjust for training or travel budgets as needed. It remains important that we explore other options for recognizing employees and supporting team building efforts and employee recognition in the future. However, this program has not been effective for being able to address those needs currently.
Rachel, Rachel, this is Wayne. Is this a proposal you brought forward, or were you asked to bring this forward?
This is a proposal that I brought forward.
Any other questions, comments?
Rachel, when you talked, I thought you had mentioned, you said that this has not been effective. Have you reached out to all of the departments and asked them what their thoughts are on this?
I've received comments at different department meetings and different interactions I've had with employees over the past few months. We've also looked at how many employees and departments have used the process. Right now, an employee has to submit a form, a supervisor has to submit a form. It has to be pre-approved and considered before it can be incorporated. In 2019, of the $140,000 that was budgeted for these initiatives, only $20,000 was used. We've had very minimal use of the program for this year so far.
Rachel, this is Wayne again. What have you done to encourage the use of this?
We have talked with department heads about ways that they could try to incorporate using it or the programs that could be suggested. And we could go back to the drawing board and reevaluate that. I think it's important to have employee recognition and team building. I just think the program that we have now has too many obstacles in place. It's been used more frequently for things like retirement or individuals having a training training opportunity as opposed to a mass approach of employees across the board.
This is Wayne again. I'm going to vote no to dissolve this program. I think if it needs tweaked, like you suggested, you tweak it, maybe make it less cumbersome to use if it is cumbersome in the first place. I think maybe if some departments are using it, some aren't, so maybe some training needs to take place. We were out without a human resources director and a full human resources staff for a while. I would like to see maybe this retooled, but I don't want to take it away. I think morale, if we want to increase morale and it's lower now than ever before, this is something that's used. I've had some employees reach out to me that they like this. So I can't support it at this time.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend that this be dissolved and reorganized. And my comments are, I've never seen morale more higher with some of the changes that we had. So we're going to be in dispute on that. I'd like to see the program redissolved and redesigned. And Rachel, you're still saying that department heads cannot reward employees for a job well done, things out of their own budget. Is that correct?
At this point in time, we don't have that currently in place.
Okay, but we could if we would dissolve this program and redesign it.
Correct.
Okay.
What's the point of dissolving it and not pulling what already exists? Wouldn't that be easier? I'm worried about the message it would send to remove this program in total. Maybe we could seek feedback from department heads, division heads, and employees in general to see what they would like to have. But I've received requests that this continue.
Well, maybe that $140,000 would be redirected to knock down the cost of health insurance to the employees. That would be a positive impact.
I think gym memberships are included in this program, and that's certainly something that would help reduce the cost of the employee health insurance program.
I think,
if I may.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments?
This is Terry. I would like to see or hear some feedback from the directors in all of the departments. Maybe some department heads or some department employees would like to continue this, some wouldn't, so maybe we could make some adjustments, and maybe we could have another program evolve from further discussion with our department heads and so forth. So I would like to at least wait another week or two before I make a decision to dissolve it. I'd like to hear from our employees and our department heads on a lot of this. That's just my position.
All right, commissioners, anybody other comments?
This is Court Management. Quick question, Rachel. Over the last 4 or 5 years, what has been used, the amount of money has been used compared to budgeted, and what departments have utilized this compared to the other departments that have not utilized it at all?
I have to go back and pull that information, but I can provide that to you and send it to the file of you.
Just for some background, I don't think this program exists that far back. Court, it was instituted during, I'm going to say maybe the last 2 years, sometime in 2018 possibly. So it is a new program. I think that's why we just need to maybe better promote it a little better. And we've had a lot of transition and lack of employees in HR to, be fully staffed and help support this program.
Well, I think they should.
It definitely needs reviewed.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Baker that I would like to postpone this decision until we have all the information available. I would like to see if it's only been 2 years or 3 years, what has been utilized compared to the budget, and then which departments are utilizing it compared to the ones that are not. I'd like to see that information before I make a decision.
Okay.
Commissioners, everybody okay with getting more information from Rachel?
Yep, I'm all for it. Thank you, Court.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'm on it too. All right, Rachel, do you have enough direction?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Next, fiscal year 2021 annual transit grant application. Kevin Cerrone, are you there?
Good afternoon. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
What I present to you today is the fiscal year 2021 annual transit grant application, which gets submitted to the Maryland Transit Administration.
Washington County Transit annually applies to the Maryland Department of Transportation and the Maryland Transit Administration for federal and state operational and capital grant funding. The grant funds are used to operate authorized transportation programs within Washington County, which includes the fixed route transit, paratransit program, the ride assist program, and separately the jobs program, which I'll mention here in a moment. It also assists us with procurements through the capital assistance program. For fiscal year 2021, the application requests $3,631,990 in state and federal funds from the MTA and the Federal Transit Administration to subsidize the transit system at current service levels. In breaking those numbers down, the local match for that money comes from the general fund of the commissioners. For the fixed route program operating funds, the local match is $649,470, and for the capital grant funds, it's $212,962. The ride assist program is a program where we receive funding through the state. However, the local match at this time for that is an in-kind match, which carries a value of $30,750, but that is not cash. That is just in kind as shown on paper. In addition to this funding, we also receive annually from the Department of Social Services $109,000, which is applied towards local match. That money comes to us every year to operate the jobs program, where we transport their clients to employment and daycare and home. The motion today is to authorize the filing of the application in addition to accepting the funds upon an executed grant.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions for Mr. Cerrone? Or entertain a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
This is Wayne, I second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Gary, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Court Management, aye.
Anyone else?
Randy, aye.
Okay, that sounds like 5-0. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up, Administrative Office of the Court Security Approval. Christine Grossnickel.
Good afternoon. This is Kristen Grossnickel, Court Administrator for Circuit Court. How's everybody?
Good, thank you.
The Circuit Court submitted an application on December 30th of 2019 to the Administrative Office of the Court requesting security funding for the installation of bullet-resistant barrier in the criminal department portion of the courthouse. The motion is to accept the awarded grant funds from the Administrative Office of the Court in the amount of $32,880 for the security funding. Are there any questions?
A motion to accept the funding. Randy.
This is Wayne, I second.
We lost Jeff. You there, Jeff? Well, Wayne, we need a quorum.
Gary, aye. I support.
Court Management, I support.
Take over, Terry. We lost Jeff.
Yeah, I lost somebody for a while. I guess, Kristen, you're asking for a motion to approve the acceptance of the grant?
Yeah.
You have a motion and a second, and it sounds like 4 ayes at this point.
Okay, I'll be an aye as well. Sorry, I lost my connection there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Goodbye. All right. Next up, Office of the Problem Solving Court Discretionary. I think, Kristen, you're back on.
Yes, I am. The Office of Problem Solving Court Discretionary Grant is to assist with the operational expenses and services of the drug court program. These grant funds will be used to operate the Adult Drug Court Program, which provides supervision and access to services for court-involved substance-dependent participants. The program reduces substance using and criminal behavior while increasing positive community involvement and overall individual and family functioning. These grant funds allow better access to justice and treatment services by assisting with transportation, providing frequent drug and alcohol monitoring, case management support services, education, and vocational access, and numerous other services. We're asking for approval of the submission of the grant application for the fiscal year 21 Office of the Problem Solving Courts discretionary grant and the amount of $268,954.25, and to accept the funding as awarded by the State Judiciary Problem Solving Court.
Thank you. Commissioners, comments, questions, motion to approve?
This is Wayne. I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a first and a second. Any other questions? If not, all in favor, say yes or aye. Yes here from Jeff.
Wayne, yes.
Very yes.
All right. Anybody else?
Randy, yes.
Court, yes.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. 5-0. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, Senator Amos funding allocation. I believe that's going to be Director Dave Hayes. Dave, are you with us?
I'm here, President Klein. David Hayes, Director of Emergency Services. Good afternoon. So we're here today, which is an annual thing that we come before you, requesting a motion to accept the recommendations of the Director of Emergency Services, which would authorize the Division of Emergency Services to make notification of the grant award from the FY 2020 Senator William H. Amos Fire, Rescue, and Ambulance Fund subsidies, as outlined in the attached documents. Total fiscal year 2020 funding received by the county is $337,415. The state of Maryland distributes an annual payment to each county for support of local fire and rescue operations. The county, in turn, makes notification of the funding to eligible volunteer fire and rescue corporations. The financial accountability and reporting are handled within the Division of Emergency Services and the Division of Budget and Finance, with the county filing a financial report with the state on an annual basis. The Senator William H. Amos Fire Rescue and Ambulance Fund is authorized within the Public Safety article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. The Maryland Emergency Management Agency has a responsibility and manager of the program. And then there's a fiscal impact if the commissioners were not to approve the recommendation, and that would include a loss of funding to result in a reduction of capital equipment funding and expenditures that are available to the independent fire and EMS companies. We have concurrences from myself, the Director, Office of Budget and Finance. There really are no other alternatives. And of course, the attachments are the notification opportunity from the state of Maryland and the distribution matrix. And just for awareness, it's a pretty straightforward formula. The total amount was $337,415. That is divided by 26, which is the number of companies eligible, with the Hagerstown Fire Department of the City of Hagerstown getting the 6 allocations for the 6 volunteer corporations in the city. Their individual disbursement to the City of Hagerstown is $77,865. And then outside of the city, the remaining departments would get a disbursement of $12,977.50. That's the end of the report.
All right, commissioners, any comments or questions for Director Hayes? If not, there's a motion to accept his recommendation.
This is Wayne. I make a motion to accept the Senator Amos funding.
Okay, is there a second?
Cormano Smith, I second.
All right, I have a first and second. Commissioners, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Here. Aye. Terry, aye.
Fund, yes. Jeff Platt, 3.
Wayne, aye.
Okay, 4. Anybody else?
Aye.
Randy, aye. I think that's all right. Thank you, Director Hayes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. Next, request for building excise tax waiver for Meredith Medical Center. I think Kirk Downey is going to be the presenter for this. Kirk, you may proceed.
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, as you may remember, several weeks ago we got a request from Greg Smook on behalf of the Board of Directors of Meredith Medical Center to consider waiver of the excise tax for the hospital's project. They're constructing a regional infectious containment unit or an RICU on the current hospital site. It's going to add approximately 12,500 square feet to the Meredith Hospital. The tax rate is $1 per square foot. They are asking that be waived, given the emergency nature of the construction, as well as the fact that this is a high priority. It's been approved by the state of Maryland in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would point out, in reviewing the ordinance, there is not a specific exemption relating to hospitals. However, there is an exemption for fire rescue and ambulance companies, as well as some other governmental or public purpose, public use type buildings. So while we can apply an exemption specifically, the commissioners would have to decide to forego the excise tax revenue at their discretion.
This is Court Minor Smith. I move to forego the excise tax for the hospital.
I have a first. Is there a second out there?
This is Wayne. I'll second that motion. Just a question. I fully support not having Meredith pay, but I'm wondering if this would be similar to what we did with the Ladersburg Ruetzen building. Do we pay for this out of another fund just to keep the excise tax money going to the excise tax fund, or is this just a complete waiver?
I think that would be up to the commissioner's discretion. You can pay for it out of the commissioner's contingency fund. If Sarah's on, I assume she can affirm that there's funds available to do that. Otherwise, as a taxing authority, I suppose the commissioners could just determine to waive it altogether.
I am here, commissioners. I would agree that's a good suggestion. I will let you know that the balance of the commissioner contingency remains at $65,000, so there are funds available.
Is there a
Mr. Terry, yeah, first and a second, I'd just like to have a question in there.
Okay.
This is for a regional infectious containment unit. So after the pandemic, does it remain a regional infectious containment unit, or will it become something else?
I think it would remain as a regional infectious containment unit. As I understand it, it's going to be a facility that has some negative pressure rooms, which helps with containing pathogens. So I assume they will continue to use it in that manner, not for COVID-19, and for whatever other infectious issues they may have to deal with.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't see any drawings or anything of what they're proposing or what actually other than 12,500 square foot, but I'm in support of it. So you have a motion and a second, Jeff.
Okay, all right, first and a second. Now, where's the funds coming from? What's been that determination?
The motion was to waive it and not pay for it at this point.
Just waive it all together, nothing from the contingency fund. Is that correct?
I would like to later hear Sarah's thoughts and recommendations on that. I don't have to hear them today.
Well, we're going to make the motion today. We're going to need a decision with the motion where the funding comes from. Sarah, go ahead.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it is past practice that excise tax would not generally be waived, and we have normally provided assistance in the form of using that contingency fund to remain on level with what we've done in the past, I would agree with it. It would make sense to use the fund. Okay, I'm getting a lot of feedback there for a minute.
A lot of feedback. Go to mute, everybody.
Yeah, so based on past practice, I would say yes, we should use the contingency fund. That is what it's there for. There are ample funds available for use, and that would keep the commissioners consistent with how we've done it in the past and not start any new precedent.
Okay, there you go. That's a nice recommendation. Is there anybody in agreement with that funding source coming out of the contingency fund with the motion?
That information, I would pull my motion, and then if we could get a motion to use the commissioner's contingency fund to pay for the fee.
Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second to agree with that? To move it forward?
I second the motion. Randy seconds the motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second to use funds from the Commissioner's Contingency Fund for Emeritus. Is there any more discussion, or all in favor say yes or aye?
Wayne, aye.
Gary, aye.
Yep, aye. Court, you're already there? Okay, thank you very much. That motion passes. Before we go to adjournment, I want to compliment all the staff. I want to compliment the commissioners. I think it was a very good meeting, and I respect and thank you all with deep appreciation for your efforts today. Thank you. Now I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Randy.
Wayne, second.
All right, I have a first and a second, and there's no further comment. All in favor, say aye.
Gary, aye.
Wayne, aye.
Thank you all. Good day.
Thank you, everybody.